The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is November 9th, 2020. This is episode 263. And today, that's right, it's the Pandemonic Special. Woohoo! And I am not a viable vaccine, but I am your best buddy, Basil.
And this is Gonz. Welcome to the podcast where we love Jesus, we love you, we love ourselves, and we love our enemies, which are becoming more and more demonic. I don't know how that works. That's one of the first things I'll ask Jesus. I'll be like, hey, we all failed in this, loving our demon.
Can demonic, is that on a spectrum, or is it a binary, like a 1 or 0 demonic, or a spectrum of demonicity?
I think it's 1-0. If you're talking like spiritual stuff.
That sounds like the easiest paradigm to understand.
It is. It truly is. 1 or 0.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So we're back. We're here. Thanks. I cannot get a grasp on what day it is. Ever.
It was Friday.
I thought it was Friday.
Well, our last story about time travel will definitely help you out. Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah. I posted on our social media that it was Friday, and nobody said anything about it. I think they're just sitting back and waiting. I think it's more fun to just sit back and wait for me to figure out what day it is than actually tell me.
All right, next time I won't tell you.
Yeah, don't tell me anything.
Yeah.
I'll just be stuck in the time vortex. Let's see. What do you got? Anything here before the show?
Yeah, well, just as usual, we don't want to talk too much about the current chaos going on with the elections, but we will touch on it briefly here at the top of the show just to cover it. And I did see a couple tweets that were very interesting over the weekend. One of them had to do with, this one's from Cultural Husbandry. This person laid out pretty much all the inconsistencies and the problems with what's happening with the election stuff, the glitch on the machines, Dominion, the company that was rejected by a whole bunch of states because of the potential corruption issue. And, those are the machines running in all the main counties and main states that are in question. And, it's just something to keep in mind. Again, like you mentioned in the top of the last show, it's kind of like, okay, there's a lot of evidence. Are they actually going to do something about it? We'll see. But either way, I've heard a lot about Benford's Law. I didn't really know what that was, but there are people talking about it. There's a lot of strange things happening when you look at the statistical analysis of the last elections and how Biden-Harris campaign really breaks the standard deviation model and stuff like that. So it's a good tweet, I guess, to sort of run through all the points of data. I saw one YouTuber, I think, maybe it was a YouTuber, maybe it was someone else, but it was on YouTube of somebody showing the real-time tally during a CNN broadcast, and it wasn't for the president, it was for one of the, I think, people running for Senate.
Yeah,
the
live switching of votes.
Live switching.
One candidate gains 560 votes while the other candidate loses 560 votes mysteriously.
Yeah, it's pretty shady. Yeah. It's pretty funny to watch.
Well, and that's the thing. I do want to make everybody aware. We are not going whole hog on the election shenanigans going right now. First of all, because a lot of other people are doing it, and there's a lot of work being done on that. A lot of interesting pieces of evidence coming in. Yes, we are aware of Hammer and Scorecard. Yes, we are aware of everything.
Everything, but all the things.
But there's a real big risk right now, I think, for a lot of people, and this is why me personally, not speaking for the show, but for me personally, there is so much up in the air, so much quote unquote evidence floating around, and a lot. I've been able to dig in to some of the evidence, and a lot of it is sort of manufactured evidence and not true stuff. So personally, I don't want to come out and hoorah for some big, secret plan that might be going through or happening right now, because I just need to see what happens and where it goes. We're aware of the watermark. Yes, many of you saw me get really frustrated about people not understanding what blockchain is on Twitter.
Yeah, well, that's going to happen, especially right now. I was
bored one afternoon and really got into it with some people who think they know what blockchain is. Anyways, so yeah, we're keeping an eye on everything. When there's something that we feel that we can feel like confident in dissecting a little more, we will be doing that. So we're not ignoring it for any other reason besides it is just so insane and so many fingers are in that pie right now that it's almost unhelpful to throw it all out there at once.
Yeah, I will play this clip from a movie called Man of the Year from 2006. Do you remember that film with who was the main guy? Robin Williams. He played a comedian who hosts a new satire program, decides to run for president, and a computerized voting machine malfunction gets him elected.
Oops.
And there's a scene here that really kind of lays out perhaps our situation in a predictive programming type of situation. So allow me to play the clip
here.
Oops.
And listener discretion, there are a couple of bad words.
Are there bad words in here? I forget.
Yes.
Okay.
It's okay.
All right,
there are, but keep that in mind.
Okay. Be a fraud. Here it is in the sensible light of day. The people are voting. There is an election. The democratic process is work. The only sour note, they won't end up with the person that they voted for to be the president of the United States. But we can celebrate the process. The democratic process, which we hold so dear, will have worked efficiently, effectively. Everybody's ultimately going to be satisfied unless somebody discloses indiscriminately, willy-nilly, in which case it will appear that democracy is in the house, and by tomorrow evening, Delacroix will be non-existent. Now, was that your motive?
No.
America votes. A leader is chosen, but one thing could disturb this beatific vision.
I just want to be truthful.
Perception of legitimacy is more important than legitimacy itself. That's the greater truth. Don't with our democracy. Don't undermine our way of life. You want to know what's at the heart and soul of every American? They believe their vote counts. And now you want to tell them that's not true? But what?
But the results of the election will be wrong. One candidate will win because of computer error.
He will?
Yes.
How do we know that?
I'm telling you.
Based on what? Guessing. Listen, this is your project, Eleanor. If you want to tinker with it for future elections, it's not only your prerogative, I encourage you. The Delacroix voting system is your baby. You're a perfectionist. Bless your heart. I support you 100%. You want to make it more perfect. But do it alone and with an eye to the future, because it is the future that interests us. Now is the past.
I'll just stop it right there. Yeah, apologies for the bad words.
Yeah.
But
Jeff Goldblum, of course, epically pointing out the fact that at this point, and this is really the obvious sort of tactic on the Biden side, is, once, quote unquote, the media comes out and calls it for Biden, he just totally claims it 100%, already holding meetings and speeches about what he plans to do, what he's going to do about the COVID and all these things, because he is president. He is president-elect, yada, yada, yada. Well, and part of that is exactly what Jeff Goldblum is referring to here, which is, nope. Okay, there we go. Now is the past. It is done. I am president. Doesn't matter. We're just going to keep moving on. And the more I solidify my win in the public eye, the harder it's going to be to question the results. And we know this is going to the courts. It's already begun going to the courts. And but this tactic being used is basically, it's interesting. It's kind of got a connection to like prosperity gospel. It's like name it and claim it, Biden.
Fake it till you make it.
You just name it and claim it. He says it. He's going to keep saying it. Everybody keeps saying it. And that way, once the courts begin, it's going to be, I'm a little worried because this is going to be very traumatic.
Oh,
for those who are like fully embracing that Biden has legitimately won. This is going to be very traumatic once it hits the courts.
Right. Even if Biden does end up winning in the end, just the fact that we're going through probably a court process, a long process in the next few weeks here is going to be troubling for them. But yeah, right here, Jeff Goldblum says perception of legitimacy is more important than legitimacy itself. That's the greater truth.
Right.
My gosh, that is like our current situation. And some people still asking what movie it is. It's Man of the Year from 2006. Mm-hmm. So, and you know, it's interesting. You watch the preview for that, and the character that Robin Williams plays has like a Trump feel to it. He's kind of like this TV guy, decides to run for president. He's really off the cuff. He, you know, is very politically incorrect and buys everyone's, attention and their love and all this kind of stuff. So a very interesting film. But yeah, I wanted to play that clip just because somebody had posted it like 13 years ago of election fraud, and you know, people are digging stuff up, and that's one of those things that you can point to as or chalk it up to predictive programming for 2020. So all things come into focus. 2020 vision, Basil.
Basil birtherism kept me out of the White House again, Gons. And as we mentioned in the last episode, we are aware of the quote unquote watermark sting, but again, there's just not enough actual legitimate facts coming out to make too much statement about it. I hope it's true, not particularly because I want Trump to win or anything, but because it's just cool that somebody did something to fight against, the fixed process. But I'll believe it when I see it.
I still think that Pachiznik video where he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt is a Boogaloo thing, Boogaloo psyop. That's my angle.
It makes sense. I mean, it's not that crazy.
I know.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. Get into normal stuff. The regularly scheduled programming, as people call it. Are you ready for a Flippy update?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
Yeehaw, folks. This is coming from abcnews.go.com. Now, here's the thing. Flippy update. If this is your first show, let me help you out a little bit. Flippy is the colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. Oh, wow. And we use talking about Flippy as a proxy conversation to explore the very real ways that robotics and AI are making their way into our lives and inevitably will result in a robot takeover. So I'm coming from abcnews.go.uk.com, and the article is titled "Lawn Robot in Germany Messages Owner for Help, Foils Thief." Oh my gosh. I still haven't gotten my lawn cutting robot guns. I'll start the Kickstarter.
You should just modify your carpet or your floor cleaning, Zoom robot.
Oh yeah. Just put some blades on the Roomba and let them go nuts. All right. The article reads like this. Berlin. Lawnmower robot's electronic cries for help foiled the thief's plan to make off with the grass-cutting automation. German police said Friday that a homeowner in the western town of Lippstadt was surprised on Tuesday evening with a smartphone message from the robot that it had flipped upside down. When he went outside to the lawn to check on the device, he spotted a thief with the robot tucked under his arm. Caught in the act, the thief dropped the robot and fled, according to police. Officers searched the area but did not locate the suspect. Police are calling for any possible witnesses to come forward. Why do you need any more witnesses? The victim
robot
himself witnessed.
Yeah.
The robot has it all on camera. There was no word on whether the robot suffered damage in the incident. Oh, God forbid Flippy lawnmower robot suffers any damage. Probably some emotional damage, though. This world is not ready to hear about the emotional problems of the robots. But I thought this was interesting this had a ring of personhood to it.
Right.
It's described more like a kidnapping than a theft. I really wish that the headline. So, that's one thing to look out for. When they start calling, robot theft kidnapping, we are in trouble, folks.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Words matter. And I that was the main point, I think, of this little article is the personhood aspect of it. It wasn't hurt. it's getting stolen, but also this idea that, everything's connected to your smartphone. So it'll let you know if your little robot lawnmower is being taken. But also, who is stealing the robot lawnmower? Who's like, oh, that looks cool. Let me take it.
Dude, I want to know what model this was, because there's a couple of places, a couple of business parks around my house that have started using robot lawnmowers in place of humans. And those things look really heavy.
I was going to say.
They look heavy and they're covered in blades.
Right.
It's a very bold move to try to snatch one of those things up. I wonder if a viable business plan is to just get a bunch of robot lawnmowers and just, do your robotic lawn mowing business. You kind of just cruise up, unload a robot, and go to the next house. You could get like a fleet of them. Yeah. Have I talked about this before? I thought it was such a great idea, and now I'm suddenly realizing I think I may have pitched this idea already.
Yeah, this is the beginning of Lawnmower Man.
Yeah, and I can get a show on ABC or something, or what's that other one? Anyways, TLC. I'll have a TLC reality show.
You interview the robots.
Yeah.
That corner was difficult to shear.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. Our Flippy update for the day. Very good.
Nice and short.
Nice and short.
Here for
we got a bunch of updates here to get to before main stories today about vaccines. But before we get there, let's do a few updates.
We interrupt this broadcast to give you a brief update. By the end of this timely interruption, you will be thoroughly updated.
A Pandemic Special.
33 is the number of completion of the Great War.
Welcome to Chinese News.
Woo!
Oh, that's a triple.
Triple jings.
Yeah.
Triple jingle.
What is it called? Anyway, what is it called in hockey?
Hat trick.
Hat trick. Thank you. Reuters.com. China reports 33 new COVID-19 cases versus 28 a day earlier. Why? Why? What? There is no point to report this. Reuters.
Well, there is.
Well, I'm
because
saying,
they got to let their fellow Illuminati members know that they're still out there.
I know, but like
versus 28 a day earlier.
I'm convinced now that they're just like trolling us. You know, they're like, "Oh, you want some 33 action? Here you go."
In all honesty, I think a lot of the 33 updates are just that. They know people are paying attention, so they're just throwing it out there as much as they can.
Yeah, this is a 1-minute read, and there's absolutely no reason to report it. Like, anyway, I just thought it was an interesting mention of 33, and there you go, Reuters. You get your click.
Yeah,
you win.
Get your click. Congratulations. You happy now?
Yeah,
you feel big, big man?
All right. A couple more updates here. This one is a tweet.
Oh, it's a new world order. It's here. Got hairy legs. Got hairy legs.
Yeah. Our hairy leg president. He loves kids jumping on his lap.
Oh, you're going to trigger people.
Oh my gosh. I think we just got banned because I said that. So as soon as the media announced Biden's presidency, not Congress, the media, the @transition46 on Twitter published this: Biden-Harris presidential transition. We stand together as one America. We will rise stronger than we were before. Buildbackbetter.com. And if you remember a few episodes ago, we had an episode titled Build Back Better, except the B's were sixes, because the lowercase b's are sixes. So you got your 3 6s. And I know the other, somebody in the chat mentioned how, and I think we mentioned it before too, how it was strange how you get 2020, you divide it by 666, and you get the 3033, whatever it is, the number, the text number that the Biden campaign ran on. But there you go. I think it's interesting how they're just coming out with it. And, man, it really, we're at this point now where you're really just buying into the shenanigans, or you're part of the process of exposing it, because there's no hiding it right here. It's the Biden-Harris presidential transition, their main website, buildbackbetter.com. Like, come on. Come on, man.
Which is funny because, again, as we've pointed out before, but for those who might be new to the show or missed that episode, Build Back Better is not just a Biden campaign slogan. It's been a catchphrase for different sort of globalist UN actors all over the world for years now. So this is not an original phrase of his. It's explicitly derived from... well, was it the United Nations?
I think it was United Nations.
Yeah. So that's something they've been saying for a while. And Biden kind of just started using it as the reptilian overlords commanded. And so there you go. But now it's official. I can't believe he got man, that would have been so smart to buy that domain up a couple years back.
A few years ago. I'm sure it was swooped up a while ago because they were using Build Back Better like, I don't know, 2012, 2013, there were people around the world already using it. So I'm sure it was.
No, it's been around for a while. It's been a UN catchphrase for many moons.
Yep. Okay, so there's that. We have another New World Order mention. I keep track of it just because I'm keeping an eye on, what all the New World Order stuff is out there. And people still say that this is just a conspiracy theory and all that. But here we go.
A new world order can emerge.
This is thenews.com.pk. I believe this is a Pakistani outlet. And under Islamabad is the name of the segment, or at least the category here for international, the news. Okay. And the title of the article is New World Order. And I'll just read a paragraph here. The world has gone through several political power imbalances and changes throughout history, despite several ways of defining the term New World Order. It's basically related to the ideological notion of governing throughout the world within the idea of latest combined efforts to understand the worldwide problems that seem to transcend the limit of state to unravel. I think it's translated here. But I mean, it's just a normal phrase now. And it's interesting how it went from like just conspiracy theorists, crazy conspiracy theorists talking about the New World Order, to now it's just kind of like, we're in a New World Order. They're like normalizing. Yeah, they're like normalizing it to the point where just news outlets from other countries even are saying it and saying it's a good thing. And
yeah, it's kind of like Build Back Better.
It kind of is.
Yeah. And they're almost synonymous. I mean, with the inclusion of the Great Reset from the what is it? The IMF.
IMF, yep.
Yep. The IMF's Great Reset, Build Back Better. Obviously, Biden is kind of putting the spin on it that we're building back from the wrecking ball of Trump. But of course, COVID being a big part of that. And there you go. It's all connected, folks. Connect the dots. Ooh.
Connect the dots. Yeah, and one more story here. It's under Pandemic Special, but it's also one of these.
Well done, thou good and faithful servant.
This is WhoObserver.com. A televangelist who referred to the coronavirus as a privilege has died from it. And this was Irvine Baxter. It says here, Irvine Baxter, televangelist who once called the coronavirus a privilege, died of complications from the disease on Tuesday, according to a press release.
Oh, gosh. This sounds like some secular tomfoolery.
Yeah, because, he was one of those, I think I met him once. I think he was at the conferences that I both attended and spoke at in the past. And I don't know all of the nuances of his eschatology, but he was, I think he did have like End Times. Gosh, what was it called? I need to make sure I get the End Times Ministries was his program. And I know he did a lot of coverage of, similar things that we do here, even if our eschatology isn't exactly the same or our views on certain things aren't exactly the same. He was one of these watchman guys out there. And so, he passed away. It's really sad, but 75 years old. And yeah, they're spinning it as like, oh, he called it a privilege because, and his position was because of premarital sex in the United States, God was judging us, using a pandemic type of deal. So that was his position. But
so does it have the actual quote that when he called it a privilege?
Yeah, here, hold on. Let me see here. Where is this? Okay. Yep. He said millions of unmarried American couples were living together and having sex, which he called sinful and punishable in the eyes of God. Quote, God may be using this as a wake-up call, Baxter then said about the coronavirus. Quote, this coronavirus may be a privilege because it'll tell you right now there is a much bigger judgment coming. It's in the Bible. So, I mean, that's not
doesn't really sound like anything.
No.
It sounds like he was just kind of babbling.
I mean, it's just, he's just referencing, and this is what a lot of like eschatological people do, not in a bad way, just, hey, there's actual judgment coming. This is like maybe a glimpse of it. And it is, in a way, if you think about it, not the virus itself, but the societal impact that we've endured here in the last year of shutting everything down. It's because there's a whole bunch of sheeple asleep and normies,
right,
just buying into the whole globalist agenda, the build back better, all that stuff. It's because we're totally, as a human, species, largely asleep to the agenda is why this has happened. And so I don't think he's wrong when he says that it's a quote unquote a privilege, because he is right in the sense so many people woke up to so many issues in this last, 7-8 months, and you can attribute it to QAnon or whatever, but it's true that a lot of people have started looking into vaccines, to, the whole pedophile ring type stuff with, all the truther type of topics that have been discussed for a while. All that stuff came to light and became much more common knowledge in the last few months. So yeah, I wouldn't say that's necessarily a bad thing. But of course the secular outlets are going to say, oh, look at this preacher man, saying wrong things about the virus and now he's dead from it. So they're always going to do that to any kind of believer that mentions anything mainstream or goes against it or whatever.
Well, televangelists are some of the most ridiculed people in America, I think. They get it from all sides.
Yeah. So those are some updates. My condolences, and sad to see him go. 75 years old. So, still kind of young, but that's it.
Sounds
for
good.
That one.
Okay.
Do you want to? You're moving stuff around in the dock here.
Yes, I moved some stuff around. Are you okay with that, or did you have a plan?
No, that's fine. I can go with you.
So this one, let's get into one of our main stories here. Gonz, you ever feel like you're being watched?
Did you ever have the feeling that you were being watched?
That's right, folks. It has begun, of course, with the media and Biden declaring objective victory. Some pretty spooky stuff has been happening, stuff we've been talking about for a while. But this is coming from cnsnews.com, which is
super right wing. It looks
very right wing. I mean, their little tagline is "the right news right now." So you'll get the right-leaning discussion about this topic, but it's more fun that way. So the article is titled "Democrat Activists Compiling a Do Not Hire Blacklist of People Who Supported or Worked for Trump." In sharp contrast to Joe Biden's calls for Americans to come together as a nation to heal. Biden to come together as a nation and heal. Oh, and heal. Some Democratic Party activists are promoting the compilation of a blacklist of people who worked for, funded, campaigned for, were appointed by, or endorsed President Trump. The beginnings of a collaborative spreadsheet being produced by the so-called Trump Accountability Project shows the targets to include campaign staff, administration members, judicial appointees, donors, legal counsel, and endorsers. Among those who have tweeted to promote the initiative in recent days are Hari Savugin, former Obama presidential campaign spokesman, DNC press secretary, and deputy campaign manager for Pete Buttigieg's presidential campaign, Michael B. Simon, an analytics expert who worked for the Obama 2008 presidential campaign, and another Buttigieg campaign team member, Emily Abrams. from some of their tweets have since been deleted, and the Trump Accountability Project website has been toned down somewhat, although archived content can still be found. On Friday, Savugin noted in a tweet that, according to a CNN reporter, White House staff were starting to look for new jobs. Quote, employers considering them should know there are consequences for hiring anyone who helped Trump attack American values, he said. Quote, find out how at the Trump Accountability Project. Abrams tweeted, quote, we're launching the Trump Accountability Project to make sure anyone who took a paycheck to help Trump undermine America is held responsible for what they did. Join us and help spread the word. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez then asked on Twitter, quote, is anyone archiving these Trump sycophants for when they try to downplay or deny their complicity in the future? I foresee decent probability of many deleted tweets, writings, and photos in the future. Her tweet has since been retweeted more than 32,000 times and received more than 347,000, quote, likes. Quote, yes, we are, tweeted Simon in response to her tweet. The Trump Accountability Project, every administration staffer, campaign staffer, bundler, lawyer who represented them, everyone. Savugin also responded to Ocasio-Cortez's tweet. You better believe it. We just launched the Trump Accountability Project to make sure anyone who took a paycheck to help Trump undermine America is responsible for what they did. After a Politico reporter tweeted, quote, history is going to be absolutely brutal on some of these people, Savugin responded. Quote, so is the present. We're launching the Trump Accountability Project. Oh my gosh, I can't believe they're just making me read tweet after tweet after tweet. I'm skipping some of these tweets. Tweets are news, man. Let's see here. The world should never forget. The Trump Accountability Project is inviting software engineers or others able to help us archive large number of Trump campaign administration staffer tweets to get in touch. Its website states, quote, we should welcome in our fellow Americans with whom we differ politically, but those who took a paycheck from the Trump administration should not profit from their efforts to tear our democracy apart. The world should never forget those who, when faced with a decision, chose to put their money, their time, and their reputations behind separating children from their families. Okay, well, you should probably talk to Obama about that, but okay. Encouraging racism and anti-Semitism and negligently causing the unnecessary loss of life and economic devastation from our country's failed response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's see, just a little bit more here. Then follows 3 categories of people to be targeted. Those who elected him, individuals who work for the Trump president campaign, Republican National Committee, and affiliated PACs in 2016 or 2020. Those who staffed his government, individuals who worked in any role as a political appointee in the Trump administration. Those who funded him, individuals who used their massive personal wealth and influence to bundle money for Trump. An earlier version of the site, since amended, was more expansive, adding 3 more categories. Those who served him, individuals who were appointed by President Trump to federal boards, commissions, or the judiciary. Those who supported him, individuals and organizations that publicly endorsed either of Donald Trump's campaigns. Those who represented him, law firms, etc., etc. The earlier version also cast a wider net for funders, targeting anyone that donated $1,000 or more to Trump campaigns. Also noticeably absent on the amended site is a link to the lists themselves, although archived data reveals that they include anyways, it goes through the list there. I don't think it's that important for the purposes of this program. But there you go, Gons. The lists have started. The lists for those who we must exact retribution on because they had different political thoughts than us.
Yeah, this is really a slippery slope.
Some real brown shirt move here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, right now it's just the list. Well, it's so weird how the Democrat Party, left, whatever, and in the context of the right-left paradigm, they're the ones that accused the Republican right that they're, that they're fascists and all this stuff, but they're so fascistic in their activity, like way more obvious than the right anyway. I mean, both have their issues, but in terms of, again, in the political spectrum, it's fascinating to watch how dangerous this is. And this is, it sets a really horrible precedent on people like us.
Well,
we're not Trump supporters, but we'll get, we've gotten swept up in it before, but I'm just saying it's going to be worse if they have lists and stuff. So.
Well, and that's the thing too, because when they first came out with the list, it included, all the way down to people who just endorsed him or supported him. So that's not anybody who worked for him or even in any sort of political office. I mean, that's like Lil Pump.
Yeah.
Who, posted a pro-Trump tweet. And you can tell, they're specifically calling to archive tweets and things like that. So if you've ever done a pro-Trump tweet, I mean, a clever software engineer could easily connect to the Twitter API and catalog every single pro-Trump supporter and put them on a list. And, this is just the problem, man. You start making lists of people who opposed you politically, you are heading straight to fascist town, baby.
I know. It's real bad.
And it's the irony is completely lost on these people. Obviously.
That's what I'm saying. It's just so bizarre.
Wild.
It's crazy. I mean, like the AOC's. I mean, AOC's kind of been nutty in all of her claims. I don't even think she is spouting out original ideas that are her own. I really think somebody is just telling her what to say.
Yeah, of course.
She's just thinks it's great.
That's just fact. I mean, she auditioned for the what was it? Was it the Democratic Socialists of America or the Democratic Freedom Party? I forget which one it was, but it was an actual group that held auditions, and that's how AOC got her spot. She is literally an operative for a group.
Right. And somebody pointing out the $1,000. It's better to be a knight or dame for the Canary Cry community than it is for Trump. But
and that's the great thing about us, Gons. We don't keep lists. we are notoriously bad at the administrative part of doing this show. So you can believe me, if you support this show, we'll mention you on the show, but then the information is lost forever.
Yeah, that's technically we do have a list of knights and dames on the Canary Cry Radio.
So we know who you are.
We know who you are.
You'll be the first ones.
7, I think, of you out there so far. Beware, they're coming for you.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So there you go. I mean, there's really not much else to say about this besides this is the most brown shirt National Socialist Party Nazi fascist thing you could possibly do, putting together a list of your political opponents and claiming you will exact revenge on them because of because they had a job you don't agree with.
You're starting to sound like a Republican or something over there.
Well, we get called that a lot. We are, not just are we bipartisan, we're anti-partisan.
Yeah.
Breaking free, and that's why we're able to realize, fascists everywhere, Gons.
I know. Even there's fascism on the right wing too. Believe it or not. Although right now it just seems like the left are just really pushing that.
I mean, in an objective sense, there's no Republicans out there trying to make a list of retribution of people to get back to. It's just not happening.
Yeah.
But you have a senator of the United States tweeting out to put a list of names together of people who worked for Trump so they can exact revenge on them. It's insanity. It's complete insanity.
Yep. Well, welcome to crazy world, clown world, as some people call it. And, it's demonic power.
Demonic power.
That's all it is.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay. What's our next story here?
We have a couple important stories about vaccines, which we on this show use the Japanese accent for it. waccine.
Waccine. Waccine.
All right, and stuff's out of order here, so let me find the exact article here, but I think it is this one. Yes, Reuters.com. Really going after you today, Reuters. A great day for humanity, Pfizer says. COVID-19 vaccine over 90% effective. Oh, this is a wonderful day for humanity, Basil.
I don't know. That already sounds like some statistical trickery, but lay it on me.
Straight doublespeak. Pfizer Inc.'s PFE.net, .n experimental COVID-19 vaccine was more than 90% effective based on initial trial results, the company said on Monday. A major victory in the fight against a pandemic that has killed over 1 million people and battered the world's economy, which I will continue to argue that the shutting down the economy has killed more people already, if you can tally it somehow, than the alleged virus, even with the numbers skewed there.
Yeah.
Experts.
I do want to make a quick correction. Yes, thank you, Pilgrim, for pointing it out. AOC is not a senator. She's a representative.
Oh, representative
in
the House. Yeah. Experts welcomed the first successful interim data from a large-scale clinical test as a watershed moment that showed vaccines could halt the pandemic, though mass rollouts of the shot, which need regulatory approval, won't happen this year. I'm surprised they said shot instead of jab. Pfizer and its German partner BioNTech SE said they had so far found no serious safety concerns and expected to seek U.S. authorization this month for emergency use of the vaccine, raising the possibility of a regulatory decision as soon as December. If granted,
was BioNTech not one of the companies that reported some huge disaster from their vaccine test?
I don't remember if Pfizer was one of the disaster people that shut down.
I don't think Pfizer was, but I remember BioNTech might have been, but maybe. I don't want to speak. Let me do some searching.
Yeah, do some clicking around. If granted, the companies estimate they can roll out up to 50 million doses this year, enough to protect 25 million people, and then produce up to 1.3 billion doses in 2021. Today is a great day for science and humanity, which is not a scientific statement, I might add. Albert Bourla, Pfizer's chairman and chief executive, said, quote, "We are reaching this critical milestone in our vaccine development program at a time when the world needs it most, with infection rates setting new records, hospitals nearing overcapacity, and economics struggling to reopen because governments won't allow them to. Experts cautioned that they still needed to see the full trial data, which have yet to be peer-reviewed or published in a medical journal." Okay. But the preliminary results look encouraging so far. So, great day for science and humanity, but they don't have anything. They don't have full trial data or any peer-reviewed stuff published in medical journals, but hey, great day for humanity. There are still many questions around the vaccine, such as how effective it is for vulnerable groups and how long it will provide immunity, and the, quote, new normal of social distancing and face masks looks set to remain for the foreseeable future. BioNTech chief executive Ugur Sahin told Reuters he was optimistic the immunization effect of the vaccine would last for a year, though that was not yet certain. Oh boy, they're getting ready to jab us multiple times here. Quote, "This news made me smile from ear to ear." Yeah, because you're evil. Sorry, I keep adding these little commentaries of my own. I apologize here.
That's what we do here.
I know. It is a relief to see such positive results on this vaccine and bodes well for COVID-19 vaccines in general, even though we don't have any peer-reviewed articles in any of them yet or the complete data. But hey, awesome. Said Peter Horby, professor of emerging infectious disease at the University of Oxford. Wasn't it the Oxford guy who also said that they wanted mandatory vaccines last episode? Yeah. What are they doing over there at Oxford?
I think it was the Oxford guy. I could be wrong about this, but I believe it was the Oxford ethicist also that recommended dosing conservatives with psilocybin to make them more compliant.
Right. The prospect of a vaccine electrified world markets, with the S&P 500 and Dow hitting record highs as shares of banks, oil majors, and travel companies soared. Pfizer shares were 8.6 higher in New York, blah, blah, blah. More share information, who cares? Quote, "The efficacy data are really impressive. This is better than most of us anticipated," said William Schaffner, infectious disease expert at Vanderbilt University School of Medicine, Nashville, Tennessee. Quote, the study isn't completed yet, but nonetheless, the data look very solid. What is up with these people?
Well, see, that's the thing.
They're just like rolling stuff out before anything is. That must be the new MO, you know?
It's
just like
the timing.
Just roll it out.
It's the timing, because Biden is claiming victory, which means we can finally say we have an effective vaccine.
Right.
Because we can't say the vaccine works when Trump is president.
Yeah.
You can only do it if Biden becomes president. And so that's why they're coming out with it. There was also an interesting thing was being pointed out. I think I read it on Vox. I'm sorry, I don't have it right in front of me. But one big point they were saying, which is, yeah, you know, this is what they're claiming. But their sample size is incredibly small for their test. But also, they haven't put out the data. This whole thing came from a press release. So nobody is actually able to look at the study data. This is literally just Pfizer saying this. They're just yelling it out into the ether which is obviously politically motivated, because of course, once Biden claims victory, then we can say we have a vaccine, but we can't put out the data yet. But just trust us. 90% efficacy.
It's unbelievable. It just blows my mind that they can run with headlines like this. And in the story, it says experts caution that they still need to see the full trial data, which have yet to be peer reviewed or published in a medical journal. But the preliminary results look encouraging so far.
Whee!
What is it? Great day for humanity. If that's not double speak, I don't know what is. But
right.
Double speak, for those of you who may be new, in the 1984. Orwell's 1984. It's basically euphemistic. Is that the right word? Ways to put something. You know, just things that are negative or bad.
No, not euphemistic, but it's. Oh man, now I can't think of the word. Shoot. Well, it's basically you just something that means. The opposite of what it actually means.
No, it's defined as deliberately euphemistic, ambiguous, or obscure language. So,
oh my gosh, maybe I don't know what euphemistic means.
Yeah, I remember that's one of those words I learned in high school, Basil.
I mean, I've definitely said euphemism, but let me do this. I'll consult the intelligent mega computer I have here. Euphemistic definition. Euphemistic definition. Make Basil go loco. Euphemism. A mild, indirect, or vague term for one that is considered harsh, blunt, or offensive. The use of such terms. In rhetoric, the use of a mild, delicate, or indirect word or expression in place of a plainer, more accurate one, which by reason of its meaning or its associations or suggestions might be offensive, unpleasant, or embarrassing. I don't get it, but I believe you.
It's just kind of... It can be used in a positive sense. Like doctors will use euphemisms to sort of, you're dying of cancer. They'll say like, you have I don't know.
You have the no disease.
Something like that. The way you used some euphemisms for your Monty,
Okay.
Yeah. So
sure.
It's that, but used in a nefarious way. So instead of telling you what's really going on, they'll just make it sound like it's the greatest thing ever. And that's really what Reuters is doing here.
Sure.
But anyway, that's the first vaccine story we have. And like you mentioned, of course, now that Biden has been declared king of the world by the media, they can roll out the positive stuff that has to do with and I think, didn't they mention that Pfizer is no longer working with the U.S. government? Or as part of...
I don't recall that, but...
I might have seen something. Let me look it up. But yeah, go ahead and...
I'll take this next one. You can update us on that.
Sure.
All right. This is coming from precisionvaccinations.com. Precisionvaccinations.com. The headline is New York lawyers recommend mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations. The New York State Bar Association passed a resolution urging the state to consider reinforcing mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations, even if people object. for religious, philosophical, or personal reasons. Mary Beth Morrissey, chair of the New York Bar Association's Health Law Section's Task Force on COVID-19, said in a statement on November 7th, 2020, quote, "The authority of the state to respond to a public health crisis is well established in constitutional law. Quote, in balancing the protection of the public's health and civil liberties, the public health law recognizes that a person's health can and does affect others. Quote, it may become necessary to require that certain individuals or communities be vaccinated, such as healthcare workers and students, to protect the public's health," added Morrissey, a research fellow at Fordham University's Global Healthcare Innovation Management Center and faculty member in the graduate schools. Specifically, the New York State Bar Association recommends to protect the public's health, it would be useful to provide guidance consistent with existing law or State Emergency Health Powers Act as proposed in Resolution Number 1 to assist state officials and state and local public health authorities should it be necessary for the state to consider the possibility of enacting a vaccine mandate. A vaccine must not only be safe and efficacious, it must be publicly perceived as safe and efficacious. Huh.
It's all about perception, baby.
You know, when there's a synchronized between the two of us, something is a little fishy. Right. A vaccine must not only be safe and efficacious, it must be publicly perceived as safe and efficacious. It's kind of a callback to the Jeff Goldblum quote at the beginning of the show. Yeah. It doesn't matter if the system is fair, it just has to look fair.
Right.
All 50 states have legislation requiring specified vaccines for students, although exemptions vary from state to state. All school immunization laws grant exemptions to children for medical reasons, states the National Conference of State Legislatures website as of June 16th. 2020. You know, a horrible thing that I want to mention real quick before we continue with this. I have a friend who has a child, and this child has some crazy disease. I don't recall the name of it, and I don't remember what it is. I think it's some sort of lung or like a respiratory and circulatory problem. Little baby, 2-3 years old. They were very effective at not getting this child vaccinated because they just didn't want that. Especially this baby was born kind of further later on in its parents' lives. It was actually pretty impressive. They're about, I mean, they're outside of the normal range when people are having children. So they didn't get her vaccinated. She had an exemption for this health problem that she has. And they are going around in multiple states trying to find a pediatric specialist to help their child with this chronic condition that the child has. And they've been turned away from insurance companies and pediatric hospitals and specialized doctors. Everybody's turning this child away because she's not vaccinated. So she has this horrible condition that requires specialty care, and nobody will give the child specialty care because she's not vaccinated. And she has an exemption, a legal health exemption from vaccinations. So they're having to move like halfway across the country to, I don't want to get it wrong. It's it's either Utah or Ohio, one of those places where, you know, they don't have, as strict vaccine laws. But it's crazy. The whole healthcare system is just letting this child die, well, I don't know. I don't want to be hyperbolic, but they're not treating this child because she's not vaccinated. It's insanity and it's evil and it's completely wild. Yeah. Anyways, moving on. Moreover, there are 45 states in Washington, D.C. that grant religious exemptions for those people who have religious objections to immunizations. Currently, 15 states allow philosophical exemptions. Ooh, that's fun for those who object to immunizations because of personal, moral, or other beliefs. New York's recommendation contrasts with the U.S. FDA's Vaccines and Related Biological Products Advisory Committee recommendation on October 22nd, 2020, which opposes mandatory vaccination policy since the initial COVID-19 vaccines are considered experimental without proven vaccine efficacy, which was actually good news. We talked about this a few weeks ago, where the FDA is rejecting mandatory vaccines. Furthermore, this FDA committee raised specific concerns regarding pediatric vaccinations with unproven COVID-19 vaccines for a population generally unaffected by this new disease. And the article goes on, but that's kind of the most important part. But here's the crazy thing, and this is where the story is really kind of spooky, because this is the New York State Bar Association.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. If your state has mandatory vaccines and you want to fight it, well, what do? You claim an exemption. Well, they're going to make you prove that exemption. And for those who have gotten exemptions in many states, you'll know that a lot of times you have to get a lawyer to help you go through this process. But in New York, the the State Bar Association, which all the lawyers are going to be a member of if they pass the bar. So basically what they're doing is mobilizing the lawyers of New York State to basically not be able to fight a mandatory vaccine for any reason, which is really a diabolical way to go about doing this. It's one thing to have an exemption, or to seek an exemption. It's another thing to have the very association that accredits your lawyer that you might get to obtain your exemption to be at risk of, like, I don't know if they will be at risk of losing their what is it called for lawyers?
License?
I don't know. No, patience, losing their patience.
Oh, their patience?
No, basically, you'd lose your license or whatever, your ability to practice if you go against what the State Bar Association is recommending. So this is really a diabolical scheme happening in New York, weaponizing lawyers against the people that they would be helping.
Yeah, it's the term that we've heard, along with the election stuff too, is lawfare, like warfare, except lawyers. Or the law, lawfare. It's pretty disturbing, and it's one of those issues where unless you get out of the state, you really can't do much.
No.
And I know it's like that in California too.
What's his name? Is it Cuomo over in New York?
Cuomo.
Governor of New York.
Yep, lovely Cuomo with his.
He's a part of this
jewelry around his chest area. Not that anybody with jewelry on their chest is bad. It's just it's just a really weird look.
He's bad. And has nipple piercings.
Yeah.
They're not correlated, but there is an interesting connection.
You can make the connection if you want. And a healthy reminder here of the Barrington Declaration. We covered it a few episodes ago. This is where it's basically a declaration that you can read here on gbdeclaration.org. And a whole bunch of people have signed it, including Dr. Johnny Bananas, which I think is part of the PSYOP or disinfo campaign to discredit something like this. But the declaration states here, the most compassionate approach that balances the risk and benefits of reaching herd immunity is to allow those who are at minimal risk of death to live their lives normally, to build up immunity to the virus through natural infection, which while better protecting those who are at higher risk. We call this focused protection. And later on, it says those who are not vulnerable should immediately be allowed to resume life as normal. And the three main people that put this thing together is a professor at Oxford, a professor of medicine at Harvard, and a physician, epidemiologist, health economist, and public health policy expert at Stanford. Mm-hmm. So yeah, these aren't like rando people. It's the same, and this is part of it. This is why these issues with vaccines, it's so diabolical, is because there is no consensus amongst the scientific community. It goes against the very idea of like scientific inquiry to politicize it like they have here, and to make it so that you can't, you don't have any kind of exit or opt out because of law, because of government, and it's a gross violation, and it's. The modern, we talked about fascism earlier, but it truly is like a modern fascism. And unfortunately, not too many people don't see it as that. Too many people just appeal to authority. Oh, the scientists said it must be true. Well, here's there's a bunch of scientists and different people in science and medicine saying something different, completely different. And so you got to just keep in mind that, this is a war in terms of your mind and your body. And, we just have to become we need to continue to spread this information to at least get people to understand, or at least look at, even your normie friends, have them look
just
at
paying attention. I mean, it's not even about,
don't.
Here's the thing is when you get the info, make your own decision, but forcing things on people is not the way to go through life.
Right. And if you don't want, and the whole vaccine thing also is, that typical argument you hear from your conspiracy minded folk. It's like, well, if the people that are way into the vaccine, if you get it, then why are you so against people that don't get it? Because they're not going to affect you, Well,
of course we know the argument about that, but it's okay.
Logic, folks. It's called logic.
Reach herd community, Gons.
The herd community.
Thank you for those in the chat who found my word for me. I was looking for disbarred, which is what happens. Yes, to lawyers. Yeah. And I don't know if you can be disbarred just by going against the recommendation of the Bar Association. I'm not exactly sure how that works.
Probably.
But I'm sure, if the bar says it, it sounds like something that they would not want you working against.
We need what
is that noise?
I don't know.
You hear that?
It sounded like it was coming from your side.
Oh, it's coming from inside the house. Oh, no.
Inside the computer.
Okay. Are you good? Can I grab an email?
Yes, let's do this email. Do we have an email jingle? I forget.
I don't remember either.
I don't think we do. Or if we do, we got snail mail.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, all right.
So here's the thing, folks. Last episode, we talked a little bit about vaccines, and I got an email from one of our producers. This producer has helped us kind of understand sciencey stuff in the past. And so, this is a longtime supporter of the show and someone who interacts with us for, in a lot of ways. And so we always like to, keep an open mind to the experts who listen to the show. And so I'm going to put it out there. It might be challenging to some people, but we're going to read it because that's what we do around here. We explore the truth. Or this person might just be a CIA shill putting out this info, in which case they're doing a great job. Okay, but either way, here we go. This is from a producer of the show. Hey guys, I missed the live stream on Friday, but got to listen to it today. This came in a couple days ago. As your friendly neighborhood expert listener / microbiologist, I just wanted to make a comment on your discussion on compulsory vaccinations. This is our producer who has been a microbiologist for 25 plus years. I think Basil conveyed some incorrect facts about the COVID-19 vaccines, and there is no need to give those who disagree with you any ammunition to refute you. I agree with that. Firstly, Basil seemed to imply that all the vaccines in the works are mRNA based. They are not. This was news to me. I guess I kind of have only been paying attention to the mRNA based vaccines. You even covered the whole tobacco plant vaccine story a few weeks ago with the plants making the virus proteins in bulk, which will then be used in a standard vaccine formulation, standard in quotes there. So talking about not the mRNA vaccines, but the classic vaccine formulation, which is a dead version of the actual virus. I'm pretty sure there are also a whole bunch of the old-fashioned vaccine development going on. There is too much money at stake for people not to go with tried and true tech to get a piece of the pie. Secondly, perhaps more importantly, the mRNA vaccines do not change your DNA. Not to get too sciencey, but the central dogma is DNA is transcribed to mRNA. And then mRNA is translated to proteins in human cells. The DNA is transcribed in the nucleus to mRNA, and then the mRNA is transported from the nucleus to the cytoplasm where the protein is produced based on the mRNA. So mRNA vaccines basically just introduce mRNA into the cells, which directly code for the viral proteins, which are then presented on the cell surface to stimulate the immune response. mRNA cannot cause DNA changes in this approach. The DNA is not even involved. Note 1. From what I've read, no mRNA vaccine has actually ever worked for any disease, which we know. Note 2, there have been mentions of CRISPR-based vaccines that would indeed insert viral protein genes into muscle tissue cells, which would then pump out or present vaccine proteins on the surface to activate the immune reaction. CRISPR systems do have mRNA molecules as part of the mix, but this is not an mRNA vaccine per se. However, I have not heard anything more than here's an idea we can try. There are some major issues with this approach, like setting off an autoimmune response, as well as the fact that muscle tissue apparently does generate immunogenic antigens very well. All above being said, I am with you on opposing any compulsory or coercive vaccinations. Hope this is helpful. Any questions, let me know. So, I appreciate this, of course. I am no stranger to receiving correction as long as the people know what they're talking about and are polite and present evidence. And when that happens, it gives me a chance to actually look into it further. Actually, I kind of knew this already, so I actually don't remember the words that I said last episode. But basically what they're talking about here is number one, a CRISPR-based vaccine would technically be editing DNA. There's not a whole lot of CRISPR vaccines being worked on, but we have read a couple articles on the show about it, that there are people...
Sorry to chime in, but we have a story on that later today.
Okay, yeah, so we'll talk about that more. So CRISPR vaccine is one thing that does actually edit DNA, but mRNA took a little bit of looking into mRNA. Yes, mRNA based vaccines do not directly edit DNA. They kind of jump in between the process of DNA and I don't know if I could correctly call it gene expression, but whatever it is, it's sort of in between DNA and the actions of your cells. So yes, to say mRNA vaccines edit your DNA is not correct, but it does kind of weasel its way into the process of, and again, I can be corrected if this is an incorrect expression, but gene expression being how does the code from your DNA get translated into your physical body. Is kind of a similar problem to when we were talking about, the astronaut who went into space and it changed his DNA, but it didn't actually change the code of his DNA. It just changed the expression, the translation, or what exact physical attributes were being decoded from the DNA. So there you go. So we've known this for a while. We've actually said it before. I must have either misspoke or just wasn't thinking last episode. And this is getting thrown around a lot, that mRNA vaccines are editing your DNA. That's not quite completely true. Maybe an easy way to understand it for a layman, but not quite the truth. When in fact, these mRNA vaccines seem to be basically changing the translation or the expression between the actual DNA code and what gets expressed in your physical body. Does that make sense, Gons?
Yeah, it does. There's now we appreciate the correction. But on the first point about how what was it here that I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull up the email again. No mRNA vaccine has actually ever worked for any disease. That part of it is that's the concern really with some of the vaccines that are being pushed out there right now. I did a report on Moderna a few weeks ago, and there's an article here that I quoted from that video from statnews.com, Ego, Ambition, and Turmoil Inside One of Biotech's Most Secretive Startups. And it talks about Moderna here, and it's pretty scathing on the CEO of Moderna. I think his name is Stefan Bancel, and he's there's a lot of controversy surrounding him in general. That he wants mRNA to work because if it does, it's so amazing and all this stuff. And he doesn't have a science background. He's got like a funding economics type of background, which a lot of people have criticized him for that too. But in the article here, I'm trying to find the spot. An ambitious CEO dreams big, and it talks about he's from Harvard Business School, blah blah blah. He said, quote, "I was always thinking one day someone will have to make a decision about me getting a CEO job. How do I make sure, blah, blah, blah." Hold on. Let me try to find the spot. I thought I highlighted it, but where is it? Oh, here we go. Moderna's technology promised to subvert the whole field, creating therapeutic proteins inside the body instead of manufacturing plants. The key, harnessing messenger RNA or mRNA. In nature, mRNA molecules function like recipe books, directing cellular machinery to make specific proteins. Moderna believes it can play that system to its advantage by using synthetic mRNA to compel cells to produce whichever proteins it chooses. In effect, the mRNA would turn cells into tiny drug factories. And up until this point, there's been a lot of issues with people that are in trials with this, people getting sick and stuff like that. And it says here, he knew it was a gamble. He told Stat, quote, "But if I don't do it and it works, I'm just going to kick myself," basically saying like, someone's going to do it. I want to be the guy to figure it out. Sure. And the article says, and so he became the company's CEO and soon developed an almost messianic reverence for the mRNA technology. This guy's like super into the mRNA and wants it to be, he wants that breakthrough, and probably for more economic and status reasons than a legitimate, I can't, I'm not going to tell the guy's heart, but in essence, that's part of the criticism here. So you get into the weeds and the nuance of the mRNA stuff that's out there. And
I think it's important. And the problem is that it doesn't mean just because, mRNA doesn't change DNA in the way that somebody's YouTube video told you or some blog you read said, doesn't mean that, we're here telling you to go get the vaccine. That's part of the sort of triggering mind control. And I'm looking at the chat, and there are some people certainly triggered by this piece of information that comes from a trustworthy source, unless you are also a microbiologist expert of 25 years, then we can have a conversation. But just because it doesn't work exactly how a YouTube video told you it worked, doesn't mean that Gons, you and I are telling people to go get the vaccine. But
there's a lot more nuance here.
As the email read, it's important to actually be able to speak about it in factual ways, or else you just come off looking foolish to people who know what they're talking about. There you go. It's okay to have previously had a misunderstanding of science that you don't personally interact with. That's okay. And it's also okay to, take on new facts. It doesn't have to change your mind about whether you're going to take or not take a vaccine. But, when it comes to conspiracy theories and news and critical thinking, it's important to not disregard facts just because it wasn't the first fact that you heard. So just to put it back into context, this is not us saying, oh yeah, Basil and Gons said it's cool to go get the vaccine. This will be great. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is if you're going to have intelligent conversations with people who actually know the science, you're going to want to also know the science.
Right. And these are different levels of conversation here. Because part of the conversation earlier with vaccines was the government oversight into forcing vaccines. That's one layer of the conversation. And I think this part of it here is more of a nitty-gritty scientific in terms of not the authoritarian way, but just the hard science, the objective science of it. Mm-hmm. And when it comes down to that, it's not. And you got to define change DNA too. Like, what do you mean by change DNA?
Well, and that's the subtlety of it.
Right.
Changing your DNA is different from, having a different expression from your DNA.
Right.
The base code doesn't change. It's just, what the manifestation is in your physical thing. And so they are two different things. If you're going to, talk to somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, they're two different things. However, I agree, in practical terms, it may not matter to you in the end. And that's okay in a practical sense. It doesn't have to change your mind. It's just, you might as well talk about it in the terms that are the current, scientific fact or whatever, which of course we know there's problems with that.
Right. And I just think it becomes an issue when people run around and say just, point blank that it's changing your DNA. You're going to get pushback from the scientific community or the people within medicine who are dealing with this day to day. Rather than, somebody else who's just looking at blogs or YouTube videos or whatever you said, it's going to come off, even if there are linguistic or semantics involved here, it's just not going to come off well. So I think digging into the issue is good. But also, again, a separate conversation is the way vaccines are used by governments and authorities to control. That's a whole different conversation than the actual what's happening in the vaccine itself. And that, I think that's always been my argument with this is, hey, because vaccines have been around for different things for quite a while. Like I said before, I was jabbed. Yeah, I was jabbed, when I was born. I think most people were. That's watching or listening. I had to get
a bunch of vaccines in 2017 to travel.
To travel, yeah. So, and again, we're not saying it's good, but at the same time, it just seems like the conversation gets lost on the specifics when people start peddling that stuff.
And here's a great comment that really highlights the problem with this from YouTube. Says, I don't get it. Are you against vaccines or do you support it? Well, exactly. That's exactly what we're talking about. We're not pro vaccine necessarily, certainly not pro mandatory vaccine, but it's important to actually have a real understanding of the current facts about it instead of just parroting what we've been told by people who may not, have the actual background. And that's okay. Don't get the vaccine if you don't want to. That's great. I totally support you.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. But, and also there's no, because people have connected the vaccine to the mark of the beast, and there are legitimate concerns in terms of control, in terms of buying and selling, legitimate concerns. I'm not downplaying that at all. But that's more from the side of control, the control mechanism. And the only reason why the change DNA part of it, I think, got into the conversation is because of the fact that the thesis that I presented, not myself, only me, but like me and many others presented early on in this, on the channel and in the ministry, this idea that the mark of the beast might change your DNA, might make you not human anymore because there's no vindication or there's no redemption for those who take the mark. They're burned, they get thrown into the lake of fire, all this stuff. And so it makes sense that, maybe you're no longer human. You lose your ability to be redeemed by Jesus. That's a possibility. That's sort of a theoretical thing that we extracted from the eschatological passages. But then to flip it and say, it's here, you get a vaccine, your DNA's changed, you won't be saved. That's incredibly dangerous too, because unless you know the science for sure, you're basically starting to peddle false information and fear, scaring people out of things.
Right.
And again, I'm not saying get it.
You don't have to lie to make a point.
Right.
The true facts say enough, but you don't have to have false facts to make a point that just to make it sound scarier. Anyways, there you go. We're not telling anybody to get the vaccine. Of course, if you question the conspiracy theory, you're a CIA shill trying to deceive the masses. So we're still waiting for that shill check, but when it gets here, I'll let you guys know.
Yeah. And I pulled this up because I'm curious from our producer there. There's an article from nature.com, COVID-19 vaccine development and a potential nanomaterial path forward. And it talks about nanotechnology. So in fact, the first vaccine candidate launched into clinical trials is an mRNA vaccine delivered via lipid nanoparticles. I don't know if that's synthetic or, again, I haven't dug into this particular article, but these are like trigger words, right? For our corner of the internet. You start talking about nanotechnology, DNA, vaccine, you're going to get triggered. And if you've only talked about these issues in the context of eschatology, then you're going to be like, oh shoot, there it is. It's the mark. Nanotechnology delivering, change in DNA, and it's the mark of the beast. And again, the concerns are way more legitimate than that. You don't have to necessarily conclude that it is the mark. There's enough concern here. You don't need to call it the mark of the beast to be concerned and to have to put up warning signs and to discuss the issue from a critical standpoint. And I guess it's just one of those issues that people are going to run with it. They're going to call us shills, whatever, or some people will anyway. But that's the thing. That's the whole idea here. And I mentioned it before, that there is no hard consensus when it comes to science.
Right.
The fact
and that's
that,
the point.
Yeah, that's the point. And the fact that people like Fauci are out there saying
science is truth,
which is not a scientific statement, that's way more troubling.
Right.
And
exactly.
the hard, of course there's problems with vaccines, and there's, people that get, killed and stuff from it, and especially in the test phase. So there's, again, legitimate concerns, but I don't think we need to peddle anything more than that in terms of,
like I said,
talking about
you see it on both
topic.
sides. You don't need to lie about something to make somebody think it's the truth.
Right.
So the truth is scary enough. We don't need to add anything else to it. Anyways, let's see here.
Break time?
I think so. Let's take a quick break.
After some Pharmakia.
It's break time. Come on, take a break.
Okay, folks, we're going to take a second and thank some of our producers of the show. The producers are the people who make it happen, and they deserve our gratitude. But don't go anywhere, because after the show, we're going to be talking about an Israeli surveillance program that is COVID related. Now, you heard us. We called the shot. We were the first people talking about it, and it made it to America, talking about, the sewer surveillance program. This is not that, but it's also something else to keep an eye on, because it's only a matter of time before we have to deal with it in our part of the world. Also, we will be talking about the Mark of the Beast. We've got a beast system update involving CRISPR and microchips and all sorts of fun stuff. And of course, no beast system update would be complete without connecting it to a West Coast university of note. And then after that, we got some time travel and VR to talk about. And so it's going to be fun. Don't go anywhere. We're just going to take a quick second to thank some of the supporters of the show, which is very important. Everybody here should be thanking the producers of the show, because it's very important. Now, if you're new to the show, you're thinking, producers, what are you talking about? You're just a couple of knuckleheads live streaming on the internet. Well, that may be true, folks. But here's the thing. Here at Canary Cry News Talk, we work on the value for value system. What does that mean? Well, you might have noticed that we do not read advertisements like many of your favorite podcasters. There are some who have to start out their program with 7 to 10 minutes of ad reads telling you just why they love this new kind of underwear and this mattress that Comes in a box, and oh my gosh, you gotta get this herbal supplement that has changed my life. That's right, folks. We get it. You gotta keep the show going in one way or another, but we decided long ago that advertising was speaking of the beast system, advertising is one of the main manifestations of the corrupted beast system, global economic religion, the theology of the globe. Advertising is wrapped up in big data, it's wrapped up in privacy concerns, it's wrapped up in big money and inauthenticity and things like that, as well as censorship. Once you start taking money from corporations, you got to start, you got to be what's called brand friendly, which means if you say something on your show that brand doesn't like, you got to shape up or ship out, mister. It also incentivizes podcasters and creators like Gons and I to consider you, dear listener, as a commodity, as cattle to be loaded up on a truck and sold to a big corporation for our own personal gain. And if you haven't figured it out yet, by the way I talk about it, we just decided that was not a great way to live our lives. We make less money, but that's okay. At least we can sleep at night. So, instead, we work on the value for value system, which means we do this show. We do it pretty often, and we like to think we do a good job at it. And if you gain anything from what we do, whether it's entertainment or information, or just maybe we annoy you with some critical thinking that goes against maybe some of your past beliefs, if we challenge you in a way that maybe expands your horizons and how you look at the world, whether you agree with us or not, that's okay. Everybody's welcome here. Whatever it is, if you get any value out of the show, please consider becoming a supporter. That makes you a producer of the show. So, first of all, the easiest way to do that is go to patreon.com/CCNT for Canary Cry News Talk. Lots of fun ways to support the show there at different levels. And I think we have a couple of new producers to thank. Gons, are you ready?
I am ready with the dinger.
Okay, he's got his dinger dinged, and here we go. Oof, oof, oof. Oh, there we go. Okay, so first of all, I want to thank producer Roman. Thank you very much, producer Roman.
Thank you, Roman.
He's a brand new producer, so thank you very much. We also have an upgrading producer, which we love so much. It's hard enough to get somebody to support the show. It's even harder to get somebody to upgrade their support, and so we thank Grace, producer Grace.
Thank you, Grace.
And I'm looking at our Patreon now. This is a great example. A lot of times people will get mad at us because we say something they don't agree with, call us shills, things like that. And that's just kind of part of the taking the punches for doing your best to tell the truth, even if it disagrees with other conspiracy theorists. We did lose a supporter during the show, and I'm going to assume that's because they did not like us looking at the science of vaccines a little deeper. But that's okay, because we know we have other producers out there who agree with finding the truth no matter how angry it can make you. Next, we have patreon.com/Canary Cry Radio. If you haven't listened before, Canary Cry Radio is our other show. It's an interview style show, a great thing to check out. If you want some deep dives into some of the paradigm shifting worldviews that we talk about here on Canary Cry News Talk, you can find that on any podcatcher you like. But we have one new producer, and it's an upgrading producer over on Canary Cry Radio Patreon, and that is producer David.
Thank you, producer David.
Thank you very much, producer David. Okie dokie. Next. If you don't like Patreon, that's okay. A lot of people don't like Patreon. No big deal. That's why we have canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right. canarycryradio.com/support. We've got PayPal options. You can come in with a monthly producership, or if commitment's not your thing, you can make a one-time producership in any amount, as well as cryptocurrency and all sorts of other fun things. So, Gons, you want to tell us about our PayPal producers.
Sure. Looks like we got 3 in the queue there. First one, producer Lorelei.
Thank you very much, Lorelei.
Wasn't sure how I was going to pronounce it at half. You know, when you start speaking a word, but then you don't know how you're going to pronounce something?
Mm-hmm.
You ever get stuck in that?
I do. Lorelei is a recurring producer, so you should learn her name.
I know. I'm horrible. I'm a horrible
Thank
person.
you, producer Lorelei. I love that name, by the way. It's a great name.
Great. Thank you, producer Michael. Thank you, producer Michael.
Thank you very much, new producer Michael. One thing to note, Gons, Lorelei was a 33 producer.
Oh, that's right. Yes, 33. Yeah. Yep. Take back that number. Also, producer Cynthia. Thank you, producer Cynthia. Another 33 producer.
Woo!
Taking back that number. And producer Charlie. Thank you, producer Charlie.
Thank you very much, producer Charlie, coming in again. And I do have one more here that just came into the email. Producer Brunilka.
Ooh, producer Brunilka.
Thank you very much.
Are we going to...
Okie dokie. I think that's everybody. Yeah, put that on the list there. Let me do one more refresh here. We usually cut off the giving amount, but producerships were light today, so we're letting those a few through the gates that came in during the show. So thank you very much. Okay, that's it though. That's all of it, Gons.
That's it for the treasure, but you can also contribute with your talent and time, and we definitely appreciate producers doing that. We don't have anybody for crypto today. We don't have any knights, but I do want to mention we got a message from ARC from Destiny Lab.
Oh,
you guys know about Destiny Lab. They I think they just released their album, and ARC was saying we can play some music from his album, and we may do that at some point. I don't want to do it right this moment, but the album is called Shift Your Paradigm, and some of the songs were on Age of Deceit 3. I think the album is finally out, so it's a great, if you're into hip hop and you're into the truth, then Destiny Labs is definitely someone to check out.
Totally, friend of the show.
Yep,
we've had them on. We had ARC.
Yep, we had ARC on Canary Cry Radio, I believe. I don't remember what episode number, but he was definitely on, and he's a contributor in that way. But also artwork.
One art, please.
Yeah.
For today, we have a few pieces of artwork to present to you, the audience. First off, it's from Mark. Producer Mark gave us the Battle of the 5G Armies.
And, this one was fun.
Yeah.
So Battle of the 5G Armies. This was fun. He had a little note, a little illustration of how 2 of the 4 horsemen of the Technocalypse are working to bring about global 5G, plus expensive Tesla tequila and 2 cute Neuralink piggies. And in the middle, we've got the Eye of Sauron, the tower from Lord of the Rings there, and it says the Battle of the 5G Armies. And on the left, we've got a fleet of Musk's Starlink satellites. We've got Musk there holding some Tesla tequila and 2 happy, healthy little piggies who look so confused that they've got their little Neuralink chip there. And on the other side, in the other corner, we've got Mark Zuckerberg with a fleet of his Wi-Fi drones he wants to fly around the world, as well as the
blimps.
The blimps, his internet blimps. So we've got 2 powerhouses getting ready to cover the earth in dangerous, searing 5G technology.
Very well put.
It's very fun too. The style, it's kind of got that, quick, fun collage. Oh, and there's the Falcon Heavy rocket there too. So, they're all over the place. There's that fun, kind of quick Photoshop style, which I love so much. So thank you very much. And this was from producer Mark.
Yes. And when you look at this, I think Elon's winning.
Yeah.
Elon's got the tequila. Mark Zuckerberg is on his knees, sort of.
He's not happy about this.
No.
Just for your info, Gons, there's 2 more pieces that came, and they're down at the bottom.
I know. I don't know if I'm going to be able to add them in
Okay, that's okay. We'll do them next show if not.
We might have to push to the next show, but we do see it. And actually, it's from Allie, producer Allie.
Woo! Thank you very much, producer
and
Allie.
Charlie. They work together on this one. It's a little. It's the montage of.
Yes,
of you and I.
It's two of Allie's portraits, one of me and my cool googly eyes, and on the right, that's the portrait of your headshot that she did there. And producer Charlie put it all together with some expert photoshopping skills there. It says Canary Cry, Think Outside the Cage, Basil and Gons. And they mentioned that they have already sent it off to producer Dust to get it on some t-shirts at Canary Cry Merch Perch.
That's good right there. I love it. Always love the artwork.
Very good.
And we
Thank
did
you very
get
much.
a couple more pieces from Allie today, but again, we'll push it to the next episode. So thank you, Allie. Look forward to seeing those new ones in the next episode. And lastly, we have one from producer Steven. I love this one. This is, how do you even explain this? The Cycle of Temptation. I think he wrote a note to us and he mentioned how
Yeah, it says here, he posts a lot of signs in my Sunday school class. I realized that this one was influenced by our podcast and live stream. And this is kind of an illustration that is called the Cycle of Temptation. So considering this is, a Sunday school lesson talking about temptations in 1 John 2:16 with the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. And it's got the cycle between attraction and through God's word you can escape. Cost-benefit analysis with skewed data. The pros is pros and cons. And it's basically the cycle of temptation. There's a lot to look at, so you can look at it there. But I think the great connection that was so influenced by Canary Cry News Talk is on the left. There's Homer Simpson with an Ethernet cable coming in quick. It says future brain machine interface getting connected into his brain. So, and that is on a sort of an illustration of the eye gates and the ear gates, two gates of temptation, of course. And then you got your sort of demonic communications that can come in all sorts of forms, including a brain machine interface. So good job, Steven. Producer Steven made this one.
It's excellent work. Thank you so much for all the artists and all the producers. And, I'm very sad to announce that That Night Wind had informed me that she is going back to work or something. I don't know why she's got to go to work. I mean,
what a crazy idea.
Horrible. But she will not be able to provide timestamps anymore for the YouTube channel. So that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Because she's been doing a great job with that. And so if anybody wants to pick up that torch and continue providing timestamps with the articles, take a look at some of the older videos. It's a pinned comment on the Face Like This on YouTube channel, and you can model it.
Yeah, and to be a little bit more specific, what That Night Wind does is they watch the show live and they just notate when we switch topics.
Right.
And we pin that comment, and that allows for people who find the YouTube video to just kind of jump around when they see a topic that they like. If they don't want to sit through a 3-hour show or whatever, they can just click on the timestamps and listen to whatever topic they're interested in. It's a vital part of us having the shows on YouTube. Also, it helps people clip it and stuff like that. But yes, we'll be losing our dear producer That Night Wind. So if anybody wants to volunteer and you watch the shows live, a lot of listeners hit every single show live, and that's great. So we'll need somebody to volunteer for that and help us grab those timestamps.
Right. And just a quick thank you to all the recurring producers out there. We don't always list your name, but we do appreciate every single one of you out there. Final mention, canarycrymerchperch.com, producer Dust working on stuff there. And so you can visit canarycrymerchperch.com and check out our swag.
Yes, and that's a family-run operation. Gons and I did not create that. It was created by a producer of the show, producer Dust, and that's how we work around here, you know? If you want to get involved and help out the community, we do our best to support you, but producer Dust took on the merch perch a while back, and we are so excited about it.
Yep. All right, you want to get back and go through the last part of here's to the last show?
Let me look at the time here. Okay, yeah, we're doing fine on time.
Okay,
let's wake on up.
Yes, it's wake up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
Okay, so first we are going to, let's see. Oh yeah, let's talk about the surveillance technology, Gons. Hit me with those jingles.
Did you ever have the feeling that you were being watched?
That's right. Every day.
I know. And it's also a pandemic special. Although, what happened to my pandemic special button? Sometimes buttons disappear.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's the thing about buttons.
Oh, didn't go.
A pandemic special.
There we go.
Woo! Okay, this is coming from ynetnews.com. The article is titled, Israel's New Virus Surveillance System Draws Comparisons to China. A new experimental surveillance system that monitors whether Israeli public is complying with the government's coronavirus guidelines is raising concerns among the locals where the digital tool has been installed, with some comparing it to the surveillance network in China. For the past several weeks, the security officials in the northern city of Akiva have been focused on cracking down on violations of health directives, culminating in the introduction of a new line of smart surveillance cameras installed in main locations across the city. The technology can detect whether a person is wearing a face cover and can measure the distance between individuals to determine whether they are observing social distancing rules. The new system can also measure the density of groups in a certain area to prevent overcrowding. The cameras broadcast a live feed to a municipal control center and notify authorities of any transgressions. If individuals are caught violating health rules, officials announce it to them through a PA system. And if they fail to comply with instructions, law enforcement is called to the scene. Now, notice how they keep talking about, transgressions of health mandates or dictates or things like that. They're using a lot of fancy language to say, wear a mask, citizen. So this is all pretty much about social distancing and mask wearing. Let's continue. Where'd it go? Worried locals have drawn comparisons between the new system and surveillance technology used in cities across China to help authorities monitor movements of citizens and crack down on activity deemed illegal. As you know, in China, it's not just about mask wearing and social distancing. This was something that the Uyghur Muslims are having to deal with as well, where the government will just put a security camera outside of the house of Uyghur Muslims. And during lockdowns, they have cameras on every door of like apartment buildings. So when they can see when somebody leaves or stuff like that, violating lockdown orders. When the news about the installment of the surveillance network broke out on a Facebook page of a local paper, many of Akiva or Akiva. I think that's the name.
It's the name of the.
Got it. It's the whole name. Or Akiva. Residents were quick to leave messages of concern about the introduction of the new technology. Quote, "You advertise it like it's a good thing. China is here," said one user. Quote, "We are becoming China, and this is just the beginning," wrote another. Director of the Municipal Authority for the Prevention of Violence, Drugs, and Alcohol Abuse, Shlomi Segev, said the system was introduced last week in coordination with law enforcement. In order to better prevent incidents of violence and vandalism in the city, of course, we got to make it about the violence and vandalism, as well as enforce health directives and provide citizens with greater sense of security. The monitoring system is the first of its kind in Israel and does not possess facial recognition capabilities, negating some privacy concerns. But as you can see in some of the pictures, it is able to detect if a person is wearing a mask or not. which is funny because, of course, there's some sort of facial recognition or just image recognition. I guess they can technically say it's not facial recognition involved there, but it'll alert authorities and they'll yell at you on a PA system. It's like, you're in school or something. You just get yelled at by a teacher, by an authority figure.
Yeah. Or Akiva is the city.
Got it.
It's a northern city. And it's actually the city that was named after Rabbi Akiva, who's said to be tortured and killed there. And Rabbi Akiva is one of the, he's one of the early rabbis and leading Jewish scholar. He was a leading contributor to the Mishnah and the Midrash. He also sometimes is credited with redacting Abraham's version of the Sefer Yitzra, one of the central texts of Jewish mysticism. And he's referred to in the Talmud as Rosh Hakimim, chief of the sages. He was executed by the Romans. So, yeah, interesting. A lot of interesting history there, especially when you talk about Israel, and you're always going to have biblical references and geographical biblical references at that. So
right.
Something to keep in mind, but yeah.
And it's interesting, there's a lot of technology companies and a lot of resources in Israel that go into developing technology. Mm-hmm. And we've seen many times a system like this pop up in Israel. They'll test it there, and it's usually some Israeli company. And then because of the business relationships that the U.S. has with Israel, as well as the political obvious political relationship, that a lot of times, it's not every time, but many times, Israel is kind of a test zone for a lot of these types of surveillance products that eventually do make it either into the hands of the U.S. government or to, police departments across the country, things like that. So I don't know. This certainly could be something we could see deployed, especially, depending on who actually makes it out of this election to become the president in January.
Yeah, and either way, it's not looking good. We've used episode art that shows the Belt and Road, where the Chinese flag and the Israeli flag, and they're giving each other a handshake. And then the Israeli flag connects to the Republican Party and the Chinese flag connects to the Democrat Party. And I think Netanyahu already came out and said we'll work with the Bidens and congratulate the Bidens and all this. So yeah, it's all, it's all connected, folks. None of it is, it's all an illusion. All this right left stuff is it's just to control you. It's all here to control you. And speaking of control.
Speaking of the beast system. Beast system.
This is, I'm going to pronounce this so wrong, alkalijtoday.co. I don't know why this is the outlet that really reports on this, but Stanford is developing the CRISPR laboratory on a chip for the ... I don't know if they ran out of space there, but that's the headline. And here's what it says. Researchers at Stanford University have developed a CRISPR-based lab on a chip for the detection of COVID-19 and are working with automakers at Ford to develop their prototype into a marketable product. That's it's so crazy. Because what was a car company that worked with the Nazis? It was GM?
It was Ford.
Was it Ford? Okay, so there you go. No surprise.
Well, Henry Ford, yeah.
Henry Ford, yeah. This could deliver an automated handheld device designed to deliver a coronavirus test result anywhere within 30 minutes. In a study published this week in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, the test found active infections quickly and cheaply. Electric fields were used to purify fluids from the nasal swab sample and to force DNA cutting regions into the tiny passages of the system. Funded by BioClinica. That sounds like the most dystopian company. BioClinica. Increase compliance and risk and reduce risk. Hold on, let me start that over. Increase compliance and reduce risk with BioClinica, your partner on the Trusted Event Education Committee. BioClinica enforces compliance with This is a different story? Okay, maybe not. With 21 CFR Part 11 and EU GDPR requirements. The CFR is Council on Foreign Relations. The EU, the European Union. Requirements: thorough de-identification of all source documents, images, videos, and photos with our AI technology, visual inspection and query management for you as a customer. I think this might be translated too. Quote, the microlab is a microfluidic chip that is half the size of a credit card and contains a complex network of channels that are smaller than the width of a human hair, said the study's lead author, Juan Santiago, professor of medical engineering at the Charles Lee Powell Foundation at Stanford.
The size of half a credit card is pretty big.
That's pretty big, yeah. You definitely show your allegiance when you smack that thing on your hand.
That's a big chip.
Using
that's like
the CRISPR,
an at-home DIY cyborg chip.
Using the CRISPR enzyme Cas12, a sibling of the famous CRISPR-Cas9, the test triggers a fluorescent molecular probe that lights up samples when genetic material from the coronavirus is found. Quote, nor does it rely on antibodies like many tests, which only show whether someone had the disease and not whether they are currently infected and therefore contagious, said PhD student Ashwin Ramachandran, the study's lead author, which that's really interesting too, because part of the criticism of the PCR is that it doesn't show you, if you're actually contagious or not.
Right.
And how many spins and all that. So they're like, oh, you want to solve that? Microchip. The researchers said the approach of the test could also be changed to detect the signs of other infections by recalibrating the CRISPR enzyme for a different genetic marker. Quote, if we want to look for another disease, we just design the appropriate nucleic acid sequence on a computer and email it to a commercial synthetic RNA manufacturer.
Sounds safe. Just email it. Just got our Gmail account. Just pop it on over.
Quote, you send a vial with a molecule fully reconfigured to reconfigure our test for a new disease. End quote. These were the details of the news. Stanford is developing the CRISPR laboratory on a chip for the ... for this day. What is up with the way this thing is written? Very weird. We hope that we have succeeded by giving you the full details and information.
Redacted. They're redacting a whole bunch of it.
Maybe the headline should be Stanford is developing the CRISPR laboratory on a chip for the mark of the beast. Because why not? There you go. Sure. That's the story. A microchip lab on a chip using CRISPR.
That's the crazy thing about it, which is to get an implant to detect one disease. I mean, I guess they're saying they can, detect all sorts of stuff eventually.
Just email
it. Just email it over. But yeah, it's crazy, and especially with COVID, which, there's a lot of differing opinions on. But even the reported numbers by the authorities is just an insanely small, amount of, when you consider all the other diseases and the impact that they can have. What are we, under 1% death rate right now?
Oh, it's way under that, I think.
It's wild that you would get an entire, microchip implanted to find this one little thing that maybe you have, maybe you won't, but at least we'll know who's on the list.
Yeah, and it doesn't make me feel comfortable that Ford is helping them, given their history in Nazi Germany.
Yeah, well, a lot of people helped out with that. IBM was involved. They created a computing punch card machine to help keep track of populations that needed keeping track of. So IBM ain't innocent. Ford ain't innocent. There's all sorts of companies that were making money. But that's what wars are for. Wars are just for making money, Gons. Make
that cash dough money. And also, just real quick, just alluding back to something we were talking about before the break, Pfizer, this is frightwaves.com, Pfizer to bypass U.S. government system for COVID vaccine distribution. So, yeah, Pfizer is trying to go around the U.S. government to distribute their vaccine. And the question is whether they have the required ultra cold storage necessary to deliver it. So there you go. I was right.
Ultra cold.
They are trying to bypass the U.S. government because, science is truth.
It's easier that way.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about a little bit of time travel for the end of the show here.
Time travel.
It's time.
Technically, it should be a VR update too, but
yeah, it's all sorts. And this is actually an interesting concept. It combines a lot of things, but we'll get into it after we read a little bit here. This is from daysinfo.com. Google virtual time travel map that could take us 200 years back is a reality now. If you are someone who thinks time travel is just a fantasy, maybe it's time for you to rethink about it. A software engineer at Google has come up with an incredible tool that mimics traveling back in time pretty closely. Raimundus Kavaris, a Google research software engineer, has built an open source map which can show you exactly how your city looked at an earlier time period and how it changed over time. The map enables both a bird's eye view and a pedestrian level view, then comes with a slider to control the year. One can see an accurate representation of any U.S. city dating back all the way to the 1800s. Kavaris' map, which he nicknamed as Project Ray with an upside-down E, is the result of his curiosity about how New York, his birthplace, changed so very rapidly over 20 years. This led him to ask himself about his neighborhood, how his neighborhood must have looked even before he was born. And that is when he took it upon himself to get started on the project. Woo! Kavaris mentioned that the entire project took him 3 years to complete and attributed the success of it to the extensive research into artificial intelligence and machine learning that he did at Google. As of now, the map is still in an early prototype stage. However, it can successfully offer its users a glimpse of any U.S. city street decades into the past. Now, to source information about the precise structures of buildings, their sizes, height, roof shape, etc. during different time periods, Kavaris made use of historical fire insurance maps. From there on, he used them to create simple 3D models of the buildings and added it to his project. It is the Google software engineer's wish for the open source map to do more than show model buildings. He and his team created the project to help individuals such as librarians and map enthusiasts contribute their own historical findings so that more details can be added to it. And then it kind of goes into what he hopes to do in the future with making it better. But this is an interesting concept, this time travel using VR. First of all, you can see his little GIF there that he has that shows it, taking from different data sources. He can place new buildings, old buildings, lack of buildings in the rightful place, depending on the year that you're looking at. Which is, pretty cool. Not very thrilling in its current state, but pretty cool that he was able to conglomerate all that data. But, it goes to this conversation that's really interesting when it comes to time travel. And just for a moment, we'll kind of shift our perspective on time travel. Of course, traditionally, one would get into a time travel machine or go through a portal and end up at a different time on this time-space continuum. But, with all this archiving of the world as it is now, whether it be with the Google Maps, where it takes a picture of everything and creates a 3D image of everything as the car drives down the street, or, CIA-backed project Pokemon Go, where kids are taking pictures of every square inch of, their own homes and weird spots in parks and in forests and stuff. And those photos have been used to compile, maps, 3D maps of the world, as well as people just taking pictures of whatever. There's this interesting concept where we are almost kind of creating the possibility of time travel as we're going about our daily lives. Time travel being in the sense of this VR experience where if you compile all these Google Maps, satellite images, street level images, Pokemon Go images, things like that. You really create a map of the entire world, not inside and outside of doors. And really all it would take is somebody putting all of that together to create something where, you slap on a virtual headset and you can, even go back, just for the sake of conversation, go back 10 years ago and see what the world looked like 10 years ago. Now, of course, we don't have enough data to reconstruct, the 1800s or anything, but consider, 100 years from now, if we still exist, if humans are still on Earth, for whatever reason, 100 years from now, you can slap on a VR set and actually, access the mapping data from 2020. What did the world look like in 2020? We're like currently creating future time travel in a way.
Yeah. And one of the things that this reminded me of was the chronovisor. The chronovisor being the
absolutely
the Vatican alleged device to look into the past or whatever. But even more concerning, this might be okay for documented history, like you said, the 1900s. The longer you go into the 1900s, the more pictures and video and stuff there are of what's going on around town. But there is, again, referencing George Orwell's 1984, who controls the past controls the future, who controls the present controls the past. And so if we're, beyond any kind of visual documentation of the past, this type of virtual experience of time travel and Google being sort of the heart of authority here in terms of what the past looked like, this becomes, they can basically shape how human history is supposed to look according to Google. And then we're talking about a crazy psyop of.
You're right. There's a
massive,
crazy, gatekeeping operation at that point.
Yeah. So
holding the truth of the past.
Right. And so while this is, in its infancy, it looks very crude. It looks like, just a 3D software, piece of software that has a timeline that buildings pop up in New York.
Yeah.
And very crude looking, but as time goes on, I'm sure this is going to get better. And then you can start talking about at least visually visiting past moments in time, and that'll become more and more relevant as time goes on because, again, like you mentioned, we have more video, we have more audio, we have more visual documentation of creation.
Yeah.
And so the longer you go, the more people will be able to reconstruct the past. But before, I don't know, video cameras, it's all going to be how people interpret what happened. So it's kind of dangerous when you start thinking about, or at least projecting into, decades or centuries, if you want to consider that Jesus will allow centuries to go on, which I wouldn't be surprised.
Forbid.
Yeah, God forbid. But I just thought it was an interesting story to look at in terms of not just the technology here, but again, who's in control of history here? History is written by its victors. Google can very much rewrite history and completely,
as we've been seeing them do, and in some more subtle ways recently.
Yeah,
for sure.
Recently, just deleting people's channels and whatever. They can do that. Much more because they are an authority here. They can do it with much more nefarious in much more nefarious ways than simply deleting YouTube channels. They can basically tell an entire generation what happened before 1800 or whatever, and people will have to believe it, or at least there'll be not many who question it, and then you're actually living the story 1984 or Brave New World, where you're breaking free of the matrix and you're trying to discover truth. And so there you are.
Go live in a cave in the woods, kids. It's the only way out. Okay. Well, sounds good. I think that's all we got for today's show. Do you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
No, I think that is it. We're doing good on time too, which is great.
Sounds good. I know we're actually finishing at a decent hour. What a great day. Okay. Well, there you go, folks. Thank you again. If you haven't done it yet, make sure to hit that like button wherever you are. And more importantly, have you thanked a producer today? Because they're responsible for the continuing production of this show. So we want to thank all of our producers who came in today, including producer Roman, Grace, David, Lorelei, Michael, Cynthia, Charlie, and Brunilka. Thank you very much. And thank you to our artists, Steven, producer Ali, producer Mark, and we will be back for another show on Wednesday, which will be the 11th, November 11th. So put it on your calendar. Make sure you turn on notifications wherever you're watching this, and make sure to follow us in several different locations. As we saw a few weeks ago, we are also not immune to the sudden censorship, where we may very well just disappear from your feed and your notifications. So follow us at twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio. If you are a Face Like the Sun YouTube viewer, follow the Canary Cry Radio YouTube as well. So make sure to follow us in several locations, or else you may never hear of us again. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Remember, we'll need some producers for Wednesday's show, so you can head to patreon.com/CCNT, or you can head to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right. Sin Kitty in the chat is saying, "Oh no, Mr. Magoo B-Day jingle." Whose B-Day is it? Say it again.
We must have missed it in the chat.
It's somebody's birthday. Put it in the chat so we can say happy birthday. I think it's producer Charlie's birthday, maybe? Who is it? Speak
maybe.
up.
I think producer Charlie mentioned it in the email.
Oh, well, good. So do a
birthday weekend. Yeah. So happy birthday.
Happy birthday to
Woo! Oh, and it's Sin Kitty, producer Cynthia, I believe, is Sin Kitty in the chat. So yes, happy birthday to producer Cynthia and producer Charlie. You guys are the best.
Awesome. Happy birthday.
Okay, so yes, canarycryradio.com/support. You too can become a producer of the show. Put it on your LinkedIn, put it on your resume, give them our email, canarycryradio@gmail.com. We will vouch for you. So thank you very much. And remember, the show can only continue with the value for value model. And so if you've been thinking, maybe today is the day I become a producer, do it. Do it. You will not regret it. I'll tell you that much. It's an investment in your own media future. Do you want the big global telecommunications news organizations to decide what information is valuable and what information is not valuable based on money from advertisers? Because that's what's going on now, whether you like it or not. So one way to fight against that and help out your best buddy Basil and Gons is to become a producer and tell the world, rebel against the current system, and tell the world that Canary Cry News Talk is worth keeping around. There's other ways to support the show. Send in your art, your jingles, your music, any creative thing that you do. If you create something on theme for Canary Cry News Talk, send it in. You can email it to canarycryradio@gmail.com. and it'll probably make it on the show. So we need more artists and more musicians to get on it. Because remember, after the show, stick around. We'll have the Canary Cry mixtape, lots of great tunes for you to dance to after, to get all the wiggles out after the show. It's very important. Other than that, I'm disappointed, Guns. We were talking about it before the show. There have been no new ratings and reviews coming in 3 weeks, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I'm suspicious. Maybe there's some sort of censoring going on or something. I don't want to, cry censorship when it may not be the case. Maybe people just aren't leaving ratings and reviews. But please leave ratings and reviews because we like to look at them and hear them and read them on the show. And B, it helps out the algorithms for the podcast players to share the show with people who haven't heard it before. We have no control over that. That is all about you, dear listeners. We have not gotten a new review since October 24th, which is a long time. So please, if you have not left a review, go to whatever podcatcher, podcast player that you use to listen to the show, leave a rating and a review. I'm told that my previous way of telling people to leave reviews does not work anymore. So I don't know what to do. Yeah, you used to be able to search on whatever search bar of your choice, Bing, the best in the world. Just search Apple Podcasts Canary Cry News Talk, and it would take you to our Apple Podcast page, and you used to be able to leave a review there. But I had some people saying that they no longer have that option. So I don't know. Do some research. Figure it out. Leave a review. We need it. Okay. There's also other ways to help out the show. Share us on your Facebook, share us on your social media, get the word out on your Twitter, etc. Tag us. We'll help broadcast that signal for you. Or more importantly, you got friends, you got family who are starting to wake up to the fact that the world is not what it seems. It's that time, folks. There is some sort of awakening happening, and you can help them out by sending them an episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Just hit that share button, send it straight to their phone, make it easy on them. It could be this episode or some other episode where we called it, and so they can, have help, because there really is a family operation around here. People not just come here for news analysis and critical thinking. They come here to meet other people just like them. And speaking of which, you can go to canarycry.community. It's a real URL. I know, it's crazy, but it's a great place. It's an off Facebook, no big algorithms involved, social media network that is all Canarians all the time, talking about world events and current events and conspiracy theories, but also just fellowshipping, playing games together. Shout out to the Canary Cry Gamers Guild, and sharing their lives. If you have a moment in your life where you just realize maybe you don't have anybody to talk to about something, you can just jump on canarycry.community and people will be there to talk and listen to you and help you out. It's a great spot to be. It's a real family affair. So there you go. If you need any more instructions, here's what you do. Find a friend, walk right up to him, grab him by the cage and shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right, folks. Just ask Noah. Thank you so much. Make sure to stop by the Canary Cry Merch Perch. It's a family-run operation. Thank you to producer Dust for doing that. Everything's sold at cost, so it's a great place to go. Gons, any last words?
No, I think we're good. Thank you guys for visiting, watching, listening. Appreciate all of you.
Woo! Okay, make sure to stick around for the Canary Cry mixtape. And make sure to come back on November 11th. That is this coming Wednesday. Probably the usual time, somewhere around noon Pacific Standard Time. But keep an eye out on our social. Follow me on Twitter, Basil_Rosewater. Do it now. You're not going to regret it. And there you go, folks. Thanks for listening to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cage.
Tried to tell you.
I'm not capable of hatred.
Science is truth.
Son of a bee sting.
Burn it all.
I'll keep you warm and safe in my people zoo.
Stop this progress before it is too late.
It's got to be biblical.
You can't handle the truth.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Buy!
I want to shake things up, shake things up. I want to shake things up, shake things up. Leave the bird alone. I want to stir up some controversy. I want to rattle a few cages. I want to rattle a few cages. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. A crusader for the little guy. Little guy. Little guy. Well, we'll see about that.
Whatever, Illuminati.
Fun fact, I believe it was another fun fact. Fun fact. Another fun fact.
Brings me back to my Screamo days.
Do pot, that's where I started.
Light up a huge blunt.
A joint.
Give everybody
magic mushrooms.
Smoke. The CIA, I mean, lots of intelligence agencies have tested secretly dosing communities. LSD.
Psychoactive pills should be covertly administered. Just put me on some, I don't know.
Give you a shot in the butt. Fluoride, oxytocin. Get a chemical hug.
I did dabble, some of that robot crack. I know what it's like.
It's a lethal recipe for disaster. You need help.
If you're a pharmacist, you need to repent.
All right, weird.
Get ready.
find something I ain't got all day. Get on my YouTube, debates like the sun. See what's new, demonetization. What's this? To my surprise, I spot a big pair of googly eyes. Click on the video and turn up the sound. What is this gem that I have found? Cry radio, cry, news talk,
Humans will be confined in a people's zoo.
I'll keep you safe and warm in my people's zoo. I'll keep you safe and warm now in my people's zoo. You and you in my people's zoo. I'll keep the cameras on.
Babies into candles.
Make you fat and sassy in my people's zoo. I'll make you fat and sassy in my people's zoo. You, yeah, you, yeah, you, in my people's zoo.
Aliens. I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo.